What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into Witty Sports Talk for another video, and this time it's tennis, the first tennis video on the channel, but the French Open just finished. Didn't have a chance to preview it simply because I was busy, and that's just a lot to preview with all the matches. So now we'll just do a review of the two finals, men's and women's, concluded today. So I'm doing it the night afterwards, I guess you can say, and overall it was a good tournament. Nadal, unfortunately, losing in the first round as far as his send-off, but that was just a terrible matchup for both him and Zverev, who we will talk about, obviously, in this video as he got to the final. But, first of all, can the tournament organizers not just give Nadal like a 32 seed or something, like seed him or find a way where he doesn't match up against one of the best players in the world in the first-round match? Seems a bit ridiculous for the best clay court player of all time. But anyway, besides that, moving into the finals, Carlos Alcaraz takes home his first French Open title, and Iga Swiatek brings home her fourth French Open title in the past 5 years. Let's get into it right now. So we'll start off with Iga Swiatek and the women's final, just because that match is going to take about a minute and a half to 2 minutes to talk about. It was easy work for Iga over Jasmine Paolini, 6-2, 6-1. As I said earlier, it's her fourth French Open title in 5 years and third in a row. So she really owns clay. I talked about Nadal a couple seconds ago, talking about his send-off and how he's won 1 million French Open titles. And Iga, I think, could be on pace to be a Nadal-like player on clay. She just seems so dominant. No one else can really come close to her. And she kind of mimics Nadal, where they might struggle isn't the right word, but they don't win every major on the other surfaces, on the hard courts at the U.S. and Australia, and then on grass at Wimbledon. But on clay, every time they come to the French Open, they're the huge favorite. And when the trophy ends up in Iga's hands at the end of it, no one is surprised at all. Came in as the number one player in the world, leaves another Grand Slam champion, her fifth overall, and it once again was just easy for Iga. Maybe the moment got a little bit too much for Jasmine. She did break early on, and everyone's like, okay, maybe we have a match here. But then after that, Iga won, 10 games in a row or something like that. And there just wasn't much to it. Paolini never got going. The nerves, I think, were just too much for her. And I think Iga was just generally so much better of a player that her serve, her backhand, her speed around the court, which helps on clay, as that's the slowest surface, is something that she can take advantage of. And overall, just a women's final, once again, kind of disappointing, where the rest of the tournament's decent. Her semifinal match against Coco Gauff was basically her final. I think that's her biggest competition on clay is Coco, but as we saw in the semifinal, she can have really bad days, and it can just be 6-2, 6-3, or 6-2, 6-4, whatever it was in that semifinal, where Coco has 30 unforced errors or something like that, and there's just not much to it. But Iga Swiatek, once again, the French Open title, third in 4 years and fourth overall. Now, switching over to the men's side of things, Carlos Alcaraz beats Alexander Zverev 6-3, 2-6, 5-7, 6-1, 6-2. 5 sets of amazing tennis. His third title, all on different surfaces, the youngest ever to do that. He's now won Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, and the French Open, just missing out on Australia, which I'm sure maybe this time next year he might have it, going for his second French Open when he can win the opening tournament in 2025. We'll see if he has it then. But the wonder kid from Spain following in Nadal's footsteps, winning the French Open, and it's a tournament which, like all of them, it looks like he could win a ton of. Got past his good friend and new number one player in the world, Jannik Sinner, in the semifinal with amazing match there as well. Faced up against Zverev, who'd been on court by the time this match finished for over 24 hours. He had some long 5-setters, lost a set against Ruud in the semifinal, and so I can imagine his body was just hurting by the end of it. And Carlos, this time, didn't cramp. He's had trouble cramping in the past when he's gone to 5 sets against Djokovic and of the like, but this time maintained his body, kept a stronghold throughout the match, dipped a little bit for sure in that second and third set, and Zverev played extremely well in the third set, rallying off 5 games in a row it was, after being down 4-1, I think. And, it was just a terrific match. It was one of those finals that we all hope for. Maybe the fourth and fifth set could have been a little bit closer, maybe a 6-3, 6-4, or 7-5, somewhere in there in the final 2 sets where it gets really competitive near the end. But, once Alcaraz kind of settled down after that 4th set somehow, really turned it around, found his game again. In the clutch moments, he's just there. And his shot making is just unreal. It led the way throughout. And at the point where in that 4th set, the breaks just kept happening, and Zverev would have a chance to break back, but he just couldn't. That's when, I figured Alcaraz was going to take it home. And then especially in the 5th set, when it was 2-1 Alcaraz after the early break, and then it was going to be 2-2. Alcaraz hit the serve. It was called out. Hawkeye said it was out by 2 millimeters. The chair umpire came in, said it was I must have been a sliver on the line from the chair's point of view. And once Carlos won that game and made it 3-1, had a big lead in the 5th, broke again, and then it was over after that. Zverev missed a couple easy volleys, and Alcaraz wins again, first French Open title. And, I don't think anyone can really be upset about it. I think he's bound to win a ton of these. Each guy had like 20 break points in the match, and throughout the different sets, you just never knew which way it was going to go. But in the end, Alcaraz bringing home the victory back to Spain, and it looks like one of those things where he's going to be around winning these titles for a long, long time. Him and Jannik Sinner going back and forth. I think Zverev will win one eventually. He's got to. He's come so close in a couple different scenarios. We never know what would have happened if he didn't tear his ACL or tear a whole bunch of his Achilles, whatever it was, against Nadal a couple years ago. But he's clearly fully back now, and it looks like he's going to be becoming a Grand Slam champion soon enough. I think he will be. He seems to be really good on clay, surprisingly. I thought he'd be better on maybe hard court with his big serve that he has. But then, like we saw today, a couple double faults here and there, and then his forehand getting a little wonky. That backhand, one of the best in the world, the cross-court backhand, is just like his go-to shot, easy, doesn't have to think about it. But the forehand and the second serve is something that Zverev needs to work on if he's going to become a Grand Slam champion, and a multiple-time one at that. But we know he can deliver in the big moment. He won the gold medal a couple years ago for Germany at the Olympics. So it's not one of the things where he gets nervous or any of that. It's just, in the 4th and 5th set, Alcaraz played better than him. And in the end, Alcaraz wins his first French Open title. That's really it for the French Open. 2 finals down and 2 Grand Slams down now for the year. We've got Wimbledon coming up next in a couple weeks, and then the U.S. Open at the end of the year. Of course, I'll be back to either preview or review those and see, who wins those. It wouldn't count against Sinner, Alcaraz, or, of course, Djokovic, winning any of those, the big 3 kind of now players that are kind of dominating the game. Medvedev and Zverev, of course, up there as well. Ruud and Rune, we'll see how they do. And any of the Americans, which I'm obviously always rooting for, but on clay, the Americans just stink, so that was never going to happen. But we'll see as the year moves on who brings home Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. But for now, that's all I've got. Until next time, have a good one.